Hey everybody, it's Nurse Stefan here, and I wanted to talk to you about this list I came across of the top 10 reasons why you shouldn't be a nurse. Now it does mention that it was written to be both funny and professional, but each and every reason that they list is something that pertains to the nursing profession and something that we actually go through. So that doesn't mean it should discourage people from becoming a nurse, because nursing has changed my life in ways I never knew something was out there that existed that could. So if for whatever reason this list might deter someone from becoming a nurse, something that could be their calling, something that's done so much for me that it could do for them, as a human, much like yourself, and as a nurse, I gotta talk about these reasons not to be a nurse. Okay, first things first, it says you shouldn't be a nurse if you're the type that sees blood and you faint. Probably the most common phrase I hear when I'm starting an IV or if I'm drawing blood from patients is, "Oh, I could never do what you do," which is a lot more than drawing blood and starting IVs. And I say, "Why?" And they say, "Oh, I can't stay on the sight of blood. I can never do needles." And I'm like, think I'm a fan of needles or blood? Like, I'm not down with them. I'm not super down with them. I didn't go into this with an affinity for needles or blood. And by the way, if you are a fan of needles or blood naturally, I'm Paige and Sergeant Dokes because we got a Dexter situation on our hands. Okay, you're forewarned. Now needles hurt, right? When they poke you, when they poke me, they can transmit disease, same with blood. They've got a lot of negative things associated with them. No, I am not super down with needles or blood. And I don't think most nurses are either. But the actuality is there are people that legit faint from the sight of blood. And that's a real thing. That's a real issue to be concerned about. But I will say this, you can overcome it, okay? Because I know a lot of nurses that have. And I usually kind of hear the same thing from all of them. You know, they view it as a fear, as a challenge that they have to overcome. And they do that by changing their perspective on what needles and blood are and the importance of them and the use of them. Needles and blood are crucial. They're vital parts of medical treatment and existing, to be quite frank. So if you really want to be a nurse, know that there are grade A nurses out there that have the same issue you do. So I will not take that as a reason not to become a nurse. Next up, you shouldn't be a nurse if you don't want to be up and moving and prefer sitting down all day. They go on to say that this doesn't apply to all nurses, so don't include it on the list. So as part of my pediatric clinical rotation, I shadowed a nurse that worked at a pediatric outpatient facility. She sat the entire day and triaged phone calls, which there were not many of. But bottom line is, don't worry. There's plenty of nursing jobs where you can sit down. You could do chart auditing. You could do nursing informatics. You could be a legal nurse consultant. And there's major bucks in those fields. But you might find the motivation to get up and move around all day if it means you get to take care of people, which is what nursing is about. There are literally so many types of nurses out there, okay? Some stand, some sit, some ride, some fly. But for the purpose of this list, some sit. So scratch that off the list. Next on the list is, you shouldn't be a nurse if you can't handle smells or are very sensitive to them. First off, again, like with the needles and the blood, no one is down with awful smells. Yes, we deal with feces. Yes, we deal with urine. Yes, we deal with fungus and folds of people that haven't showered in weeks. Abscesses can be one of the most foul-smelling things. Now, there's a huge population of you out there that like watching pimples pop. I'll admit it can be satisfying. There's even a show, Dr. Pimple Popper or something like that, right? See, the difference is you've got a screen, lots of distance, and a film crew between you and that abscess. Us, not so much. We sit there with our poor attempts with coffee grounds and air fresheners, but there are some smells you cannot escape. But while we deal with suctioning out cups of pus from these deep abscesses and smelling the scents that we smell, we also know that we're relieving this person of something that could potentially kill them, or at least improve their quality of life. I mean, if an infection goes on for too long, people get septic and die. It happens all the time, right? So if you think you want to be a nurse and help heal people, help save their life, or at least give them better quality of life, are you gonna let that smell stop you? I'm gonna be honest, you never get used to the smell, okay? It's never like, oh, I don't smell anything. No, it stinks. It always stinks. Something's always gonna smell. And there's always gonna be new odors where you're like, I have never smelled that before. I don't know what's growing in there. Something's up. So you don't get over the smell. You get over the fact that you have to smell it in order to help that person. Those are the little sacrifices we make to make a big difference. And that's nursing. Not a reason not to be a nurse. Next up is, you shouldn't be a nurse if you're not keen on change, okay? If you don't like it, change. Listen, if you don't like change, you need to find another world, okay? Another life, another existence. Change is inevitable. It always happens. You could be working for 20 years pushing paper, and all of a sudden a new manager comes in and says, hey, guess what? You're shredding paper now. That's change, okay? You gotta be able to adapt to situations. It's part of life. The beauty of it is that we're changing because we're learning new things. And some of the things we've been doing for so long, we've been doing wrong, and they can be done better or differently. And it all comes back to the same thing, improving the care to help heal our patients. Change is inevitable, so it's no reason not to become a nurse. Next up, you shouldn't be a nurse if you're in it for the fame. It goes on to say that nurses don't get credit for what they do, and it's a very thankless job. Fame has to do with reputation, so let's just focus on a thankless job. Okay, first let's talk tangible items, okay? Myself and probably every other nurse out there at some point in their career has been offered some sort of gift or some sort of thank you card, or has had money shoved down their scrubs. That might just be me. Or something like that once or several times. And when it comes to the words thank you, I hear it from almost every patient. And then the doctors and the CNAs, the HUCs, all the colleagues, okay? I don't know what this one's talking about. And when I don't hear a thank you from a patient, I usually feel it. Or they were never lucid enough because they were barely alive when I helped save their life, okay? And I usually don't get a chance to see those patients wake up. Or the gift basket they send a few weeks later, the cookies or the thank you card, whatever it is. But the ones that I'm one-on-one with and I don't get a thank you from or feel a thank you from, I usually said something wrong and I go and I hide in the break room for a little bit. Seriously though, you could be a waitress, a flight attendant, a massage therapist, dental hygienist, not a Comcast service rep. There's no thank yous in that. None whatsoever. But shoot, you could be a carny, okay? And everybody that walks off that Gravitron is gonna thank you, okay? No disrespect. I love the Gravitron and its operators. If it weren't for them, I don't know if I would have ever walked legit sideways in my lifetime, okay? So thank you. But really, if you're looking for self-fulfillment and happiness from external sources like other people's behaviors and actions or things that they say, you've got some self-work to do. But even so, the truth is we get thanked by our patients all the time. And that's not to say we don't get swung at or spit on every now and again, but for the most part, what I've found is that they express gratification. And the thanks we get ain't just any old thanks. It's a big thanks. Thank you for helping me heal. For myself, for my friends, for my family, for my entire world. That's huge. That's it for today. Check back tomorrow for the other 5 reasons why you shouldn't listen to the other 5 reasons why you shouldn't be a nurse. I'm clocking out.